artist friends. I'm here with a project that maybe some of the older students would like. The younger students could try it, but I think this is geared more towards my 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. But anyway, this is an illustration that can tell a story. And that's what I thought we could do today, because art is very therapeutic. And I'm sure you all have stories to tell during the pandemic. And here's an illustration that tells a story of my experiences during the pandemic. And if you look at this illustration, some of it's in black and white and some of it's in color because I didn't finish it yet. But I just wanted to show you and explain some of these drawings that I did. Here you see myself with a mask holding up my arms. And over here, there's a lot of different illustrations. This one shows an illustration of me and 2 friends going out to eat the night of March the 12th, when we first found out that the next day, March 13th, wasn't a school day. And at first, we were a little excited, I have to admit. We thought we had a day off and didn't realize the severity of what we were going to go through. We'd soon find out. So anyway, I have us having a nice little dinner here, and the wavy lines are sort of a dream-like effect, and I wanted that to be like a dream and a big X over it, because that would be the last time we would get together and go out to dinner together for a long time. And anyway, over in here, I also have a picture of all of you representing my students. And I did this in chalk pastel, and it gave it a very dreamlike powdery look. And this one over here was done in markers and water, but I really like that dreamlike look. And there you are, and no more would I see your faces from March the 12th, that Thursday. And so I wanted that in there with an X over it. Over in here, you see different areas. Here's me watching the news day after day to see what was happening with this virus. And during this time, if you've been to the grocery store, your parents probably told you that certain items were really hard to find, like toilet paper and paper products. And we had to wash our hands, wash and wash and wash our hands, and use disinfectant wipes when we brought groceries home to wipe them off. And we had to stand 6 feet apart. And there is footprints showing the 6 feet apart. And during that time, we celebrated Easter and the resurrection of our Lord. And so I have that right here. And over in here are things that I did during the pandemic. I painted, I did things with family, playing board games at night, watching TV shows, walking my dog Stella, and making the rocks for hope. And I have to say that out of all the things I've done during this time, the rocks of hope have given me the most pleasure and the most satisfaction, because I felt like when someone picked those up, I was spreading a little bit of joy in their life. So today, I thought what you could do is do an illustration and tell your story during the pandemic. And an artist that I like to focus on while you're thinking about this is Marc Chagall. Now I'm going to just see if I can prop this up a little bit. Let's see if we fold that like that. Well, anyway, I'll prop it up with me. All right, so over in here is a little article about Marc Chagall, who is a Russian painter, and he was born in the late 1800s, and he did a lot of artwork before and after World War I. And his artwork was had a lot of folk art in it and symbolism. He was Jewish, and so He did a lot of Jewish symbols in his artwork. He also did a lot of Christian symbols in his artwork. But most of his artwork was very dreamlike, and it told a story. And you can see here, one of his pieces here has different parts that he is going through. Here's a part with a farmer. Here's a village over here. Here is a face, and here is an animal. And over here is the tree, and that could be symbolizing the tree of life. But look at how a lot of this is divided into sections. So when you start your illustration, the story that you're going to tell, you might want to start with divisions. You might want to start with drawing some lines like this, maybe curved lines. Maybe you want to use a circle. That circle could be intersecting some of those lines. And then maybe you want to fill in those sections with your story. So what is your story going to be? Are you going to be drawing your pets? Are you going to be drawing you doing your schoolwork at your computer with your Zoom classes? Are you going to be drawing pictures of your family? Or are you doing chalk art out on your driveway? Or maybe you're painting rocks of hope. Or maybe you're doing some reading and you found some really good books to read. So maybe you're watching some TV shows, maybe you're gaming. But whatever your story is during the pandemic, I'd like you to illustrate it sort of in a dreamlike Marc Chagall fashion. And when I showed you this over in here, let's just see some different materials and how they work. If you do illustrate with marker, these are water-soluble markers, you can put the marker down, color in a section, and then you can also wet that and it will act like paint. So if I take this and go over that red, you can see it bleeding onto that zigzag right in there. So you can use these as paints. Maybe you don't have paints at home, but maybe you have markers, and you could use that for your illustration. Maybe you want to use colored pencils, and a lot of you have colored pencils. So if I were coloring in me, and I think me with a mask on with my arms up is probably going to be the most focused area of my illustration. And so I would come in here, I'm pressing kind of hard on my colored pencil and putting in some brown and maybe going over that with a little bit of orange or yellow for my hair, and putting in my skin color and then showing my mask. And you can see my arms have my flesh color. So that will give you a more exact coloring. And finally, the pastels. I have some chalk pastels here, and you might have chalk pastels, maybe you have oil pastels. That would be okay too, because they can do a little blending. And anything that you want to look dreamy, and let's see, what do I want to look dreamy? Did you notice over here, did you notice that I'm laying in bed here and I have a really scary look on my face? It's because sometimes, and I'm sure it might get to you too, maybe you're bored, or maybe you're thinking, am I ever going to see my friends again? And here's me thinking those thoughts, and I have the words worry, worry. And you know, my thoughts go to people who maybe have the virus, and you hear of so many of the elderly people dying from this, and that's why I have the skull and the crossbones there. Not to scare anybody, but just those were some of my negative thoughts, because I'm sure we all have negative thoughts in this, but my positive thoughts definitely outweigh my negative thoughts. And here is an example of doing these chalk pastels in here. I'm going to put in some different colors for my trunk right in here, and maybe some other tans right in here, because you know, even though a trunk may look like all one color, we are artists and we can use whatever color we want for this. They can be fantasy colors, they can be realistic colors, and see if I take a Q-tip and blend those colors in. I'm going to get a blend of the tan and the orangey brown, and it all blends together like that. If I really wanted a whole section blended, what I used was a tissue, and after I had colored in everything, I went like this, so the whole thing would look like it was in a cloud, like a dream. And so anyway, I'd like you to illustrate your experience in this pandemic, and I can't wait to see them. So I hope when you come back in September that you can show me some of these illustrations. I would really like to see them, and maybe we can even display them in the hallways when you come back in September. So have fun doing your pandemic illustrations. Make them dreamlike, like Marc Chagall, the Russian painter that we talked about, and I'll see you in September. All right, so have fun.